Have you ever been puzzled by how Spring Boot manages its beans? It can be quite confusing, especially when you create your own beans using the @configuration annotation. Today, we're diving into the order of configuration in Spring Boot and how it affects your custom beans. I totally get it. It can be frustrating when you expect your custom beans to take precedence over the default ones, but things just don't seem to work as planned. You're not alone in this struggle. Many developers face similar challenges. Let's look at the specific questions that have been raised. One user asked, "Why do my beans created with @configuration override the default Spring Boot beans?" They also wondered about the mechanisms behind this precedence and how they can manage it in their projects. Sound familiar? Let's explore this together. So how does Spring Boot achieve this? The overriding behavior is not due to a custom class loader, but rather the way Spring manages its application context. When you define a bean with the same name, your custom bean takes precedence over the default one. Let's break this down further. And stick around. At the end of this video, I'll share a powerful tip on how to effectively manage your bean configurations for better control. To understand how Spring Boot manages bean precedence, the user should first know that Spring uses a concept called the application context. This context is responsible for managing the lifecycle of beans. Next, the user should note that when a bean is defined using the @configuration annotation, it is treated as a primary bean. This means it will override any existing beans of the same type. If the user wants to give specific precedence to their beans, they can use the @primary annotation. This annotation marks a bean as the primary candidate for auto-wiring. Finally, the user can create a hierarchy of beans by using profiles. This allows them to define different beans for different environments, ensuring the correct beans are loaded based on the active profile. Fun fact, did you know that Spring Framework was created in 2003? It has evolved tremendously since then, making Java development much easier and more efficient. Now, let's look at the answers provided by other users. This user explains that in Spring Boot, auto-configuration classes are set up last, after all user-defined beans. They emphasize that Spring Boot uses conditional annotations to ensure that user-defined beans take precedence over the default auto-configured ones. Let's check out another perspective from a different user. To ensure your component takes precedence over others in Spring, you can use the order annotation with the value order.lowestPrecedence. This sets your component to load last, giving it priority. Additionally, the @primary annotation can be used to give your bean a default preference. If you need to override this preference, you can use the @qualifier annotation. Here's the tip I promised. Regularly review your bean configurations and use annotations wisely. This practice can save you from unexpected behaviors in your applications. And there you have it. You now understand how Spring Boot manages bean precedence and how to control it in your projects. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe for more insights and don't forget to check out our next video for more Spring Boot tips.